Canal Cabalá, tu vida con un nuevo sentido.
You know, I've been thinking about this whole situation in Iran, and I have a lot of friends, especially in London, that are Iranian expatriates, and now they either have the bomb, they're going to have the bomb, or it's imminent they're going to have the bomb, and they can't work within themselves. They can't get along internally. You know, and this worries me. This worries me not just for myself, but as an American Jew, this worries me for Israel too.
Well, I'm an Israeli Jew, and it doesn't worry me. It doesn't worry me at all. I understand that Ahmadinejad and this whole regime is actually in our benefit, in our favor. It accelerates our development. It brings us to a point of decision where either we shift to a new world order and begin to understand that it doesn't matter if it's not Iran today, it's going to be Gaddafi or Venezuela, Chavez, whatever. There can always be danger. We have to make a global resolution for everyone all over the world that we're stopping the fights. It's impossible today. Anyone today can have missiles, or, well, not today, then tomorrow, or an atomic bomb. It's not a problem. You think, how many countries today are standing right before having a nuclear bomb? So what's going to happen in 10 years?
Yeah, but you always say, you know, when I hear you talk about, no, they have to come to this realization, they have to do this, they have to do that. Doesn't it have to start with each person?
No. Every person is different. If you want to wait for every person. But I'm talking about governments. If governments could arrive at some kind of agreement that's it, it's too dangerous.
It took them 5 years to go from G7 to G20. So you think they're going to come and agree?
Okay. So we can't allow ourselves to be late. If Iran starts with a nuclear bomb, that's it. The whole world will explode. It's not going to be, something small. The minute there is a real danger, then even Israel might attack. In the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, I think they're more afraid of Iran than Israel is.
No, absolutely. You know, I spend a lot of time in those countries.
And Egypt and all that. In other words, there's finally a situation where, thanks to Ahmadinejad, with his help, we're being forced to arrive at some kind of agreement, an international agreement that we have to finish this up. We can't play the war games anymore.
But everyone is still playing their own power games. You know, you have the United States on one side, you have Europe on the other side, you have China on the other side, and the Arab countries on a fourth side. And maybe, the countries in South America, the other third world countries have different sets of interest. So right now, even so in the financial crisis, you had coordinated policy actions between the central banks in the United States and Europe. China played along, but China at the same time said, we're making our own rules as we go along. We're going to do what's good for China. For example, they never let their currency float. They still held their currency at an artificial level that wasn't really reflective to its value. They can't figure out the little stuff. To me, the right answer would have been, after all this happened, it proved that there was a global crisis, that we were all in one system. If the crisis didn't show them that everything was connected, they're deaf, dumb, and blind, right? So why couldn't they at least say, okay, we're going to have one set of rules? Instead, There's a set of rules coming from Germany, a set of rules coming from Japan, a set of rules coming from America, and none of the rules are doing anything.
No. What countries produce, their own laws and all this protectionism, that's all temporary. We're inside a general natural law. Nature is closing us in a single system, and if some entity, some country wants to isolate itself, it's as if an organ in the body doesn't want to cooperate with the rest of the body. It'll be harmed. Look at what happened to Russia. And it's declining, and it'll soon just disappear and collapse. It'll be torn into pieces by, its territory and everything, because they've created laws that don't follow the laws of the world. Like, they were playing the opposite way. And it's the same for China. They won't be able to sustain themselves. Another year, another 2 years, it's going to blast. It's as if you're saying, yeah, we can create artificial laws, the Chinese government, that government, this government, and then go by these laws. We're in nature. Our laws have to adapt to nature, to match it. Without it, we won't be able to exist. And it's going to happen with China too, and it's going to happen with America too, but for different reasons.
Getting back to China,
because America, they don't know the
getting
natural
back to
laws.
China, you have probably the most repressive government in the world, who is now the second biggest economic. They've just overtaken Japan as the second biggest economic power in the world. So is the fact that they're not treating their people?
So what? So what? It doesn't matter. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. If they don't keep the law of nature, they're going to fall. It's as simple as that. In my eyes, there is no other way. We have to know that today, nature's law is integralness. It's connection.
But how do we?
Those who go for connectedness.
But how do we actualize this? How do we make this happen? How do we? It's like, what can we?
Through blows, we're going to recognize it. Real blows, one after another crisis, another crisis.
And this is going to change the collective
hold our
consciousness
heads
of
in our
mankind?
hands. Yes, of course. We'll see that we can't get along. And why are we calling the world global today, integral? Why are we saying there's a butterfly effect? There's interdependency. Why are we saying that? Let's study what that means.
Well, you're already seeing people accepting these ideas more and more. At least I'm seeing it here in America, people accepting these ideas. But on one hand, they're accepting the ideas. On the other hand, they're going out and not loving thy neighbor, beating thy neighbor with a stick, trying to get an extra 2 pennies out of him.
So a few more blows, and they'll start understanding that they're really
What do you think about this whole thing with Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize? Made absolutely no sense to me. Here he is, he hasn't done anything yet.
No, it's not senseless. The Europeans played a beautiful game on him. They're forcing him to play with peace the way they want to play with peace, because they don't have the strength. They have already given up. They don't want anything. This old continent, the old continent, the Europe, and that's what they want America to be like. So they gave him a Nobel Prize, so that in order to justify the Nobel Peace Prize, he'll behave nicely, so it'll tie his hands down. It's a very dirty game they're playing.
So when you say tie his hands down, what do you mean? I don't understand.
I mean that now he'll have to, because he received the Nobel Peace Prize, he'll have to act better towards the world and not be so aggressive, which he actually should have done, judging by the American interests. He'll have to be considerate of Europe and the rest of the world. That's what the Europeans want of him. That's why they gave him the Peace Prize. Do you know when they nominated him? He was only 2 years in office as a president, and they already started thinking about giving him the Nobel Peace Prize. It's got nothing to do with anything he's done. It's just a political thing that they want it to be this way. 6 months ago,
but if you
started.
could give advice to Obama right now, because on one hand you're saying it was in America's interest to be more aggressive, but if you could give advice to Obama, what would you say to him right now about how America should act in the world?
America should show the world an example, like it wanted to be, an example to the world. So it should show the world a role model, an example of what integralness means, what is the law of the new world. It should see in what nature explains to us about how we should be connected to each other and how we can approach it. Cabalá explains that very clearly and very simply and says we have to realize it. You want to check it out. And then the Americans, too, will maintain their lead in the world. They'll be a role model to the world. And America will have its place, and I think to the
now
benefit
they
of the
can't even
world,
agree
it's gonna
that
happen.
everyone in America should, if they get sick, that they should have an opportunity to go to a hospital. They can't even agree on this.
Well, that's because it's all based on the old rules. If you make new rules of connection among everyone, if you start operating businesses for only what's necessary for existence, and the rest that's redundant, you won't produce it, you won't waste so much.
But when does
You'll
Obama,
have plenty for everything.
See, I feel sorry for Obama. I think Obama, in his heart, wants to change things. I think that he's been roped into the old boys and how they've always done things. I'll never forget after he sat down with Bush after he just got elected, he looked like he aged 10 years after this one meeting. When I see this...
Of course, you began to realize what was happening in the system.
So I feel sorry for him. I think that he wants to get to another level. I think he wants to take it.
He doesn't know how to do it.
He doesn't know how to do it.
He doesn't know how to do it. And nobody does. Because again, we don't have to be smart. We've gone above nature or against nature long enough. We have to be an integral part of nature. We have to study that law and simply follow it. That's what I would recommend to Obama and to the American government and to all the governments and to the entire world and to every individual person. We are in that sphere called nature. And we, people, are the only element that's going against it, and hence we suffer.